Hello everyone. We have approached PSIR through the questions which has been asked by UPSC earlier, and this is one of the potent way to approach, because this will help you to understand the mindset of the UPSC and the trends of the question has been asked, and you can analyze the trend and fine tune your preparation accordingly. So today's question is on fascism. So fascism question, first, fascism by destroying liberal traditions and institutions served the interests of those who won instruments of economic power. Just simplify the question. The question has been asked in a different way. That Lasky's statement that fascism was unwanted child of capitalism means it served capitalist. So the question is falling in that line, because fascism by destroying liberal tradition and institutions. Fascism opposed liberal democracy, so it was destroying the democratic liberal traditions of individualism, utilitarianism or welfareism, and also it rejected individual liberty, and it also rejected liberal democracy, because fascism favored the totalitarian form of government, that is total control of the state, authoritarian, centralization of political power, while liberal tradition and liberal democracy believes in decentralization. Fascism rejected debates and discussion. So it's true that it partly destroyed liberal traditions. It was against liberal democracy. But the question is, by destroying them, how it served? The question is comment. Whenever the question is comment, first you have to write introduction, then body and conclusion. This is the structure. In introduction, the keywords given in the question, you must be clearing it. That you have understanding of the keyword, that is fascism, how it is ideology and program of action, and what form of government it advocate, how it became social movement, how it was counter-revolutionary. And then you have to come to the point that how it destroyed partly this. But in comment question, you have to be critical. Don't believe that the statement given in this question is absolute truth, and one dimensionally you are writing in favor of the statement. This statement is partly true, but there is other side of the coin as well. In comment, by changing paragraph, you have to write the other side of the coin as well. That Lasky says that fascism was unwanted child of capitalism, or distorted form of capitalism, or ultimately served the interest of capitalist, closer to capitalism. But liberals, capitalists say otherwise. They say fascism was not closer to capitalism, fascism was closer to communism. As in communist Russia there was totalitarian regime, single party system. Same was the case in fascism. In communist system also there was a totalitarian state, no civil society. Same was the case there. So we have to write the other side of the coin. But first thing first, just I acquainted you that most of the students see the question and they start writing by considering that the statement given is absolute truth. And especially in question of comment, you have to write the other side of the coin. So first thing first, fascism by destroying liberal traditions and institutions. What are liberal traditions? Liberal traditions you must know. Then only you will consider that how fascism destroyed them. In mathematical language we are writing fascism inversely proportional to tolerance. Tolerance is in liberal tradition. Tolerance to criticism is considered vital part of liberalism. Flexibility, no flexibility but imposition of the discipline. Accommodation, fascism is rejecting accommodation. Then liberal traditions believe in liberal democracy, rule of law, but fascism favor rule of law is favored by democracy, rule by law is favored by fascism. Totalitarian, here political decentralization, here centralization. Fascism claims that if one body is run by one brain, one state must be run by one dictator. So that favored centralization of powers, while democracy favored decentralization of powers. And liberal traditions favor individual freedom, but for fascism, individuals are just like cells of the body which can be sacrificed for the sake of body. And for fascism, discipline was the most important value, not the freedom. No tolerance to criticism. Aggressive nationalism, while liberalism, capitalism did not favor aggressive nationalism, only nationalism. Violent nationalism, suppression of minorities. Liberal tradition favor protection of minorities' rights, protection of minorities. So partly yes, it broke the liberal tradition, but partly it broke the Marxist tradition also, because the enemy number one for fascism was communism. They rejected class struggle theory. They rejected Marxian theory. They favored ultranationalism. They did not favor an international peace or international laws. They accepted the Hegelian formula that peace corrupts and everlasting peace corrupts everlastingly. War takes place as per the divine will. Liberal tradition believes in rationality, but fascism had mystic idealism, exploiting the sentiments of the people, particularly youth, getting support from all quarters. But ultimately, how they served capitalists or those who won the instruments of economic power? Because fascism favored industrial discipline, industrial peace. So if industrial peace and industrial discipline would be followed, then workers will have no autonomy to go on a strike. The work which was earlier done by factory management, those who own the instruments of economic power, means those who were capitalists, now were done by state. By denying class struggle theory, by denying autonomy of trade union, by denying working class rights. So it rejected individual rights, but at the same time it also rejected community rights as favored by socialism. Liberalism and socialism are different, but both are very progressive. Liberalism favors individual liberty, market economy, prosperity, creation of wealth. Socialism favors socio-economic equality, egalitarian society, equality of opportunity, satisfying basic needs of all. But fascism was not progressive. It's a political disease, retrograde. Even the achievements of modernity in terms of rationality was rejected by fascism. So it served the interest of capitalist. Even fascist party, Nazi parties were funded by capitalist. Domestically, after so Bolshevik revolution, there were working class movements, there were attempts for revolution in many parts. So those possibilities of socialist revolution was negated by emergence of fascism. And its enemy number one was communist Russia. So it destroyed liberal tradition, it destroyed Marxist tradition as well. And this is the reason why Lasky says unwanted child of capitalism or distorted form of capitalism. Because ultimately, fascist proved to be ultra-rightist, ultra-nationalist, capitalism of extreme form, based on not tolerance and accommodation but forceful means, as fascism talks about, inspired from Nietzsche's postmodernism, Nietzsche's concept of Superman. Will for power is more than will for life. Will for knowledge, and knowledge is the power. So Nietzsche's thought, Hegel's thought, Machiavelli's thought, biology, even Rousseau's thought were distorted. Fascist state claim that it represents general will. Although Rousseau said that will is non-transferable, non-representable. And Rousseau favored direct democracy, but it destroyed liberal democracy. Fascism considered democracy as weak form of government, feeble form of government, incapable of taking faster decision during wartime, or even fast progress is hampered by democracy. And they claim that parliament has become fish market, no debate, no discussion. Decision would not be taken, decision would be pronounced by dictator. And it was claimed that it would be in the interest of all, it will be serving general will. So, fascism ultimately destroyed liberal tradition and ultimately denied the scope of dissent. It favored policy of war. Capitalists, or those who had instruments of economic power, they were frustrated. German capitalists or Italian capitalists were frustrated that Britain and other French and other European countries had more colonies, and they denied market access to German and Italian products. So howsoever they will be good in quality or cost, because of denial in the markets of colonies of Britain, they will never be able to grow. This is the reason why they also favored warmongering, aggressive nationalism, violent nationalism, and it became social movement and popular because war-like conditions provided a fertile ground for emergence and popularization of fascism. And it favored single party system, committed bureaucracy, no independent judiciary, no civil liberty, no civil society. Civil society is considered to be fifth pillar of democracy, because total control of a state. In liberalism, capitalism, there is space for private endeavor, there is space in privacy, there is space for individual freedom, and where a state would not be interfered. And in classical liberalism, state was considered to be necessary evil. But fascism believes Mussolini's statement, nothing above state, nothing beyond state, everything is under state. So state will control not only political sphere, all spheres of life. So there will be no civil society. So it destroyed citizens' power both as individual and as community. It suppressed the working class rights. And fascism program of action because Mussolini believed that, he said that I don't believe in ideologies, although it was an ideology, but I believe in action. So wherever there is ism, you have to see it as a group of ideas. So it was mainly used for mass mobilization as group of ideas rather than science of ideas. There was no open-minded approach. It was not to be seen as science of ideas. It was not even progressive. It was not even rational, claiming that war was taking place as per divine will, saying that war is the symptom of good health of the state, and claiming that world spirit would be manifested only after war. War brings tragedies. So both liberalism and socialism favored international peace, which was rejected by fascism. So you have to write both sides of the coin. For the first half of the question, in the body you write the partial truthness of this statement, means yes, its statement is partially true, that yes, it served the interest of capitalist class, yes, it favored industrial discipline, it denied working class rights, and it denied class struggle theory, it destroyed liberal traditions of tolerance, accommodation, it destroyed liberal democracy, decision through debates and discussion, destroyed it, no doubt in it. But other side of the coin is that it also destroyed other traditions, like even tradition of the modernity, rationality, logic, reasoning, humanism. By glorifying war, you are negating one of the pillar of modernity, that is humanism. So that is also being destroyed. Modernity was also destroyed. Liberal traditions and institutions were also destroyed. Liberal democracy was targeted. And at the same time, by hating communism, it also targeted the community rights. So you have to use the word like ultra rightist or distorted form of capitalism, just to substantiate first part, distorted form of capitalism, or unwanted child of capitalism, that it was against the very liberal traditions which were set, but partly also destroying communism, Marxism. So you have to, in this comment question, it was a very peculiar ideology, in fact political disease. In fact, it has to be seen as group of ideas for mass mobilization. Quite surprisingly, it galvanized support from all corners of the society, although it mainly served the interest of capitalists. But frustrated youth were the backbone of this obedience, and following dictator blindly became fashionable, became acceptable norm. So even middle class supported, middle class of Germany and Italy supported. It was a bit surprising because the whole support was galvanized on way of vengeance, that humiliating peace treaty was imposed on Germany and Germany will have to take revenge of it. The victorious powers after First World War humiliated Germany, held Germany for all guilt, Germany, the war indemnity was imposed on Germany. Many mines of Germany were given to France, and Italy was also left at lurch. So there was sense of humiliation, discontentment, unrest. Coupled with the emergence of Bolshevik revolution and industrial unrest and working class movement and social chances of socialist revolution, coupled with the interwar period 1929, great economic depression in capitalist countries, all these, because fascism was at its peak during interwar period between 1919 to 1939, was at its peak. So the conditions of interwar period were also conducive for its emergence, and this is the reason why it rejected both liberal democracy and socialism both. It said that this is the new hope, this is the new ideology, this is the new program of action. This advocate a particular form of government which will ultimately be victorious. So in this particular question, I hope you have understood what you have to, what are the contained parts, and then it will be easier to write. I am just summing it up so that for your convenience, that fascism, you must have firm understanding of fascism. So by flow chart you can also understand fascism, first to be seen as group of ideas or ideology, political ideology. So every political ideology is group of ideas which is inspired from the historical philosophers or earlier philosophers. So fascism was inspired from the thoughts of G.W.F. Hegel, Machiavelli, that means does not matter, ends matter, Nietzsche, Rousseau, in fact, also, although misuse of Rousseau's thought. It was also inspired from the biology. So these thoughts were taken to give it a coherent shape. So it is to be seen as political ideology. And deductive method, so partly Plato also. Then form of government, which form of government it favored? Totalitarian, authoritarian, rejecting democracy, no independent judiciary, rule by law, not rule of law, committed bureaucracy, not neutral bureaucracy. So this form of government. Then how it became program of action. Action was both on domestic front and external front, violent nationalism, aggressive nationalism, suppression of minorities, prosecution of Jews, as Hitler blamed Jews and communists responsible for defeat of Germany in the First World War. He called them traitors, anti-national. So program of action was also there. Then counter-revolutionary. How enemy number one for it was communist Russia. Then it also becomes social movement, very popular. Social movement, very popular. It galvanized huge support from all corners of the society. An interwar period and conditions were helpful in its emergence. Then political disease. Political disease also, as it was reversing even modernity. So you have to see, wherever there is a ism, you have to see it as a in this way. that how it was political ideology, program of action, counter-revolutionary, social movement, which form of government it advocated, whether progressive or regressive, using inductive method or deductive method. So, what are the sources of inspiration? So this is how, and ultimately capitalists were relieved from their job of addressing the working class strike or working class demands. Capitalists were also happy that with war there will be more allocation of resources for weapon industry, and weapon industry will be benefited. Although war brings collateral damages and causes inflation, and inflation is double taxation for the poor virtually. So in this context, fascism is considered to be pro-capitalist and anti-poor ideology, but at the same time it is also destroying liberal traditions. By this you have to conclude this answer. So I hope it is now easy to write the answer on this question. So that's it for today. Thank you.